What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews. Now, Benjamin Franklin once said, "Nothing can be said to be certain apart from death, taxes, and the fact that BootWizard does not like laceless boots." Or does he? Something else that is certain is that I did not like the Predator 20.1 in that mid-cut variant. I thought it felt a bit cheap, a bit like a takedown model. I thought there was too much room in the toe box, and I thought the fit through the midfoot made the boots nigh on impossible to wear out of the box and made the break-in process far too long for a top-end boot. So what we're going to do today is we're going to see if the Predator 20 Plus can do the impossible. Can it convince me that a laceless boot can be better than a laced boot, and can we say that this is actually better value for money than the 20.1? All that, as well as how these fit, feel, and all the tech breakdown coming up. So stick around, remember to hit the like button and get subscribed, and let's jump in and see if this Predator 20 Plus can do the business. So the standout feature across the entire Predator 20 line, and especially on this 20 Plus, is of course this demon skin. This rubberized striking element that runs around the entire boot. This is a return to something we have asked for on a Predator for years and years. And boy, was this worth the wait. This demon skin absolutely does what it sets out to do. It provides a texturized, sticky rubber coating across the boot that does help your touch on the ball, the grippy feeling on the ball, and improves your ability to be able to hit those bend shots, that ball with the dip and the curve. Now, admittedly, if your technique is poor and you hit a ball badly, this is not magically gonna turn it into David Beckham hitting the top bins against Greece.
Raise the roof here with a goal. I don't believe it.
But it's certainly going to give you a little bit of added extra on the ball. This does, however, come at a cost. So the boot as a whole has been slimmed down from the previous generation. It feels thinner, it feels more aggressive, there's been a layer of foam removed from the boot, but by adding this rubberized element to the outside, it hasn't increased that feel and touch on the ball, because the rubberized striking elements on the outside provide you with a much more dampened sensation. Now, this isn't necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's entirely down to personal preference. If you want to have a really good connection to the ball and a barefoot sensation, this probably isn't a boot you were ever going to pick up anyway. But if you want that rubberized feel, if you want to test out the striking element in 2020, and you don't mind a bit of a dampened sensation because of it, then this is definitely worth considering. The upper is of course one piece because this is a laceless boot, and it is, like the 19 Plus, still a prime knit upper, although it's been constructed in an entirely different way, and instead of having that control skin outer, we now have the demon skin, and then backing the demon skin you have these vamps. I feel like, from a performance standpoint, by having these vamps that cover almost the entire upper, that's actually made the boot feel a lot more responsive and a lot more aggressive than it did on the 19 Plus, which was a much more of a loafer-like, comfortable, less responsive, less aggressive type of boot, and by making the change, putting the vamps in, that's really helped. So let's circle back around to a comparison to the 20.1, and as I say, one of the reasons I didn't like that boot was because I felt like the vamps felt cheap. That's not the case here. The use of the prime knit up into this crazy, quite high cut collar is and does feel more premium than you got on the 20.1 as well, and in terms of a premium feel, this even has more of this demon skin, these rubber elements running around the boot. There's 405 spikes on this model and significantly less on both the 0.1 variants, the low and the mid. Now, in terms of how that affects the boot performance-wise, I don't really think it does. On the low and the mid, the amount of demon skin is in the key areas, so you still get that sensation. Having a bit of demon skin run all the way back here doesn't make a huge amount of difference. What does make a difference, however, is the fact that the demon skin is completely different in terms of its shape between the two boots. These are all angled forwards on the 20 Plus, and they just feel more aggressive. Genuinely on the ball, this is a more aggressive touch and feel compared to what you get on the 20.1 models. Now, again, that is all about personal preference. But if you want the most aggressive rubber striking element experience that you can get, then the 20 Plus is definitely the boot to go for. On the 20.1, it's a little bit more refined, it's a little bit more general, and a little bit more accessible, really. But if you're buying a Predator, you probably want aggressive rubber striking elements, and this boot does that better. So we are going to do a full unboxing of these. We'll have that video on the channel, and when it's available, you'll be able to click up here and take you through to that so we can get down into all the little design details of this boot. But for now, I've said this before in the video, I really like the look of this boot. I think it's cool. I prefer it to the regular 20.1. I think it offers something different. This Mutator pack in this Predator, I think, looks absolutely fantastic. The design accents that are in there, the little Predator callbacks, a Mania-inspired split sole. I think Mutator's the perfect name for the boot. I think the boot looks fantastic. The detail that has been gone to in many areas of this boot is phenomenal. It does have a wearable sole plate finish, in case you were wondering, but the demon skin sets it off. I think it is fantastic. So let's talk about the traction and this brand new sole plate and stud pattern combination, which is still called a control frame. But the only thing it shares with its predecessor is the name. This is completely reworked, completely redesigned, and we even get a split sole, something that I feel is very Predator. From a traction point of view, and comparing this to the previous generation, it's definitely more aggressive. The studs themselves are a little bit more tapered, they're a bit thinner, and I think you get better purchase in the ground. The shape has also been changed slightly, but realistically in the forefoot they're pretty much stylized conical studs, and then they're almost a bladed stud in the heel. I think it's an improvement over the previous generation, which was a bit middle of the road and not a sole plate that I really loved. The traction on this isn't anything spectacular, but it's definitely an improvement. That slightly more aggressive shape across all of the studs does mean that I think this is now a better suited boot to FG pitches. It will still work on AG, but bear in mind, Adidas lists this as an FG boot, not FG AG, even if some stores such as Unisport do list it for both pitch types. So with that split sole and the new stud shape also comes a brand new sole plate feeling. Adidas have gone for a very Nike Mercurial-esque anatomical sole plate feel on this new Predator. Now with the Nike Mercurial, I found it a very seamless transition to go from a regular sole plate to their anatomical sole plate. It feels locked in, it feels like you sit in the boot, it makes the boot more responsive. The Predator 20 Plus sole plate was a bit more of a learning curve for me. It's something that I got used to in the end, but it's certainly not a sensation that I particularly enjoyed when I first got the boots on, and I still find it a little bit strange. So my issue is that on feet, it feels like in this midfoot area that the boot has been sucked up into my arch, which technically should make me feel more connected to the boot, but it feels a bit strange and uncomfortable, especially at first. My bigger problems come kind of in the toe box area, where there just seems to be too much space in the boot where the anatomical sole plate moves between the ball of my foot and my toes. Again, just a strange sensation. I've tried the boot in multiple sizes and it's pretty much the same experience no matter what size I pick up. This isn't necessarily a criticism and it is going to vary from person to person, foot type to foot type, and I like the idea that Adidas have gone with this anatomical style. They've gone with something to make the boot more aggressive. A lot of the things I'm talking about are making this boot a more aggressive boot, which is good. But with the sole plate, just be aware it might take a little bit of getting used to. Okay, let's do weight, and let's start with the previous gen, the 19 Plus, throw that on the scales and get a base level. 234 grams. So is this 20 Plus better or worse than that? Have we had an improvement? The answer is yes, ever so slightly. This is 227 grams, which is not particularly heavy for a modern day football boot, but it's not particularly light either, with a lot of boots going sub 200 grams now. There's nothing really to complain about, especially for this style of boot, but it's also not revolutionary. If weight is your main concern, probably shouldn't go for this, but if weight is not something that really drives you, it's no reason not to buy it. Value for money. These are 285 euros. That is an insane amount of money for a pair of football boots. The only reason that I would consider that this should be a boot you should be considering and going out and buying is if you're really into the laceless idea and you want to try out this brand new Predator 20 Plus. But even in that instance, personally, I would advise be patient, wait until the newer colorways drop, wait until these go down in price and pick some up on sale, because 285 euros is silly money. So just before we get these on feet, let's just take a look at what is inside. We've got a really nice liner on the inside in the heel with some good padding, and then that kind of disappears as you run down the boot, but that adds to that more aggressive, thinner, more responsive boot feeling that we're getting from this. We have got rid of the boost. There is no more boost technology in the 20 Plus like we got in the 19 Plus. Didn't really do anything anyway with the boost insole, but it's gone. So if you like that, you don't get it anymore. So fit-wise, to run through the basics. We already spoke about the slightly strange feeling of the sole plate. Width-wise, these are a reasonably narrow-fitting boot. If you have very wide feet, they might not be for you, but they'll fit most people. Sizing, I've gone down half a size in the Predator 20 Plus, which has vastly helped with my issue from the 20.1 where I had too much room in the toe box. Then also because of the engineered knit, the more premium vamps, and the lack of pressure points from not having laces, going down half a size hasn't negatively affected the comfort in the width of the boot, so I've got no problems going down that half size. In terms of length going down the half a size, they are almost absolutely perfect for me, although I do have to say that this feeling of a boot that just fits you isn't going to be for everyone, and some people will just want to stick true to size. But personally, I'm very happy down half a size. That radical high cut collar does make these slightly harder to get on than a regular one-piece upper boot, and I do find myself pulling on the collar a little bit more than I would ideally want to, but it's also not nearly as bad as I expected, and they're not too bad to get on. You get a shoehorn in the box if you want to use it. And as I've mentioned before, for a laceless boot, the responsiveness is pretty good here. Although, it has to be said, this does suffer from the classic laceless boot problem. No laces, no adjustability. If this boot does not fit your foot perfectly, your lockdown will suffer. Personally, I've been fairly fortunate as the Predator 20 Plus fits my foot quite well. But there's no comparison to a pair of boots with laces, and this continues to be a huge problem for laceless boots and continues to be why I'm going to continue to recommend getting laced models, for example, the 0.1 lows. So to answer my question from the start of the video, are these Predator 20 Plus without laces a better boot than the laced options? And the answer is still kind of no. That issue with the lockdown and responsiveness that you get from a laceless boot does still persist, and it is simply fixed by buying a pair of boots with laces. Now, the 20.1 mid is a boot that I really didn't enjoy, so I actually do prefer these 20 plus to the 20.1 mid, and they're a special experience, these 20 pluses. There's something very different, there's something new, innovative, and I love that. And the fact that they aren't extra aggressive does make them extra special with that demon skin. So for a laceless boot, this is actually a boot I enjoy quite a lot. However, I've also recently tested the Predator 20.1 low, and we will have a review of that on the channel very soon, so get subscribed, and that has to be my go-to pick. It fixes some of my fit issues from the 20.1 mid, provides almost all the tech that you're going to get from the 20 plus, and it doesn't suffer from that fairly debilitating issue that laceless boots have: poor lockdown and poor responsiveness. So drop down in the comments what you think of the Predator 20 Plus. Remember to smash the like button on this one to get that Predator 20.1 low review, which you can also get by subscribing. Click around my face to get any of my other content on the Predator 20 line. Well, that's all from BootWizard here today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon.